Hi guys, 18 Dapper here and welcome to this video. It's the League One preview and predictions for the 2020-21 season. Feels good to be creating football content once again. Let's get it started. I got that So guys, welcome to this League One preview and my predictions video. In this video we will look at the close season for the Rovers. Bit of a dodgy one. I'll go through the expectations for this season and we'll take a look at the rest of League One, and while we're taking a look at those I will put them where I think they're going to finish in the table. It's only my opinion, I'll say that now, so if you're watching from a different club in League One and I put you in a position that you don't think you deserve, please let me know in the comments down below. So on to the close season reaction. Since lockdown, since the curtailment of last season's League One campaign, we have lost the Watson family off of the board, and I've done a separate video on my thoughts and feelings on that. I will link that in the top corner of the screen, but in a nutshell, they've put a considerable amount of money into the club over the past number of years, so a little concerning on where that money is going to come from. I think the communication from Doncaster Rovers, from Gavin Baldwin, has been fantastic throughout the quarantine and the lockdown and the closed season, and he seems to think that the future of the club is stable, and there's not too many worries outside of COVID-19 in terms of finances, so take his word for it. I think it's just a case of watching this space and seeing what happens over the coming months or couple of seasons. So if you want to check that video out, please go and have a look at that after this one. There's been a massive impact for every club during lockdown and since March, thanks to coronavirus, the pandemic, and I think this is going to be an ongoing issue for many clubs, with the start of the season being played behind closed doors. We're still not entirely sure when we're allowed back in stadiums, and for clubs our size, Accrington, Wimbledon, they need people through the gates, they need bums on seats. That's their main revenue income, that's their main stream of income, and it's going to be interesting to see. There's a number of teams currently on the brink, and then there's obviously the teams who are already in financial difficulties, like your Wigans, Charlton's, Hull, who are in League One. So it's going to be a very strange season, and it's been a very difficult one to predict as well. So I could be a mile off with every single prediction on this one, or I could be spot on, who knows. But the impact on the Rovers, it has had an impact, but I think as a business and the Club Doncaster brand, we seem to have taken the hit quite well and continued as we were, but it has had an impact on what we can bring in terms of players and length of contract. There's only been a couple of players brought in. Lakilo, goalkeeper, name escapes me, and then yesterday we brought in Richards as well. Richards and the keeper are both on loan, Lakilo on a 1-year deal, so I think the length of contract that we're able to offer is less than what we'd like to, and then we're obviously going to be leaning a lot on loans, but we've done that over the last couple of years anyway. We have lost our top scorer from last season, Kieran Sadlier. He refused a contract extension, and then as a free agent he looked destined for Hull City, but then Hull were relegated, and fair play to Sadlier, he wants to play at the highest level possible. It would have been nice for him to sign an extension, and then at least if a championship did come knocking, we'd have got some sort of fee for him. But that is football, unfortunately. He didn't sign the contract, he was free agent, and Rotherham have snapped him up. So good luck Sadlier in the championship. I think Rotherham have got a good chance of staying up. and sadly is a very, very good player. Can create something from nothing on his day. One con I would say about him is that he's a little ball greedy. I think last season there were opportunities to set other people up and he tried to do it himself. But overall, a very good player, and I'd sooner him being a Rovers shirt than a Rotherham shirt. So hopefully we replace Sadlier, and potentially Lakilo and Richards may be that player who has replaced him. We've continued to have a patient transfer philosophy. Darren Moore always goes for the players that he wants, and he doesn't settle for second best. It's a little frustrating from a fan's point of view because we see a number of teams bringing loads of players in or getting rid of players, and we just seem very, very quiet in the transfer windows since Darren Moore's arrived. But trusting Darren Moore, the players that he has brought in over the past season have been very good. There's been a couple of questionable ones, but overall I think the loans like Ennis, Dieng, Cameron John, Ben Sheaf, four fantastic players, but there were a few questionable ones last season too, but they're no longer with us. So hopefully the loan market is good to us again. Richards looks a very, very good player. We saw Lakilo last year, he looked like he's got a lot of potential, so hopefully he can show that this season. And we will see if there's any more additions over the coming few days, because our season starts on Saturday against Blackburn Rovers in the Carabao Cup. So on to my expectations this season. I think there's more additions required. I think we need another striker to back up Fajiri. I think we've got solidity at the back, but I do think we need a centre-back brought in to support Wright or Anderson if one of those get injured. We are very light at the back, but I think because of the pandemic there is going to be a focus on youth this season, but there is no development squad. This was a bit of a surprise. I think as a cost-saving exercise they've decided to get rid of the under-23s setup at the Rovers, and any youth players that are good enough or deemed good enough for what would have been the development squad are now getting thrown in at the deep end and training with the first teamers. I think this is a positive thing. I think the youth players will get a better feel of training. I think they'll develop quicker, and we'll potentially see a lot of young players coming through. Well, that's the hope. It'd be nice to see a focus on youth development and see some of those breaking into the first team. And in terms of Rovers as a season, we're off the radar for many people. We're not kind of high up on the odds for promotion or anything. So I think everybody's expecting us to have a solid mid-table season. No troubles going down, but not really knocking on the door of the playoffs either. But I think we may surprise a few. But I think we need the additions to do that. I think we need a few more players to be able to say we could make a decent push for the playoffs here. We're kind of in the middle. We may have a middle of the table season, or we may push for playoffs, in my opinion. It'd be nice to get a promotion in Coppinger's final season. So moving on to kind of visiting each club. I'm going to do it from the bottom of the table to the top. As I said at the start of the video, if your team is in a position that you think is very harsh, let me know in the comments down below. I'm not an expert on every club in League One. I'm not an expert on Doncaster Rovers. So with all other clubs, I struggle a little bit. I've done a bit of research, and this is just my opinion on kind of what's happened to them over the close season and where I think they're going to finish in the table. So starting with 24th, I'm sorry, Rochdale fans, but for me, you've lost three very good players in Henderson, Camps and Lillis, and there's not really been any replacements brought in. So I think there's going to be a very tough season ahead. I've put you in the bottom four in 24th. On to AFC Wimbledon. The additions of Woodyard and Palmer are decent players, but personally I feel that they would have added to the players that they did have, who have left the club over the summer, such as Wagstaff, Pinnock. I can't believe Pinnock went on a free. Absolute fantastic player, and Appiah up top. So Wimbledon, they've diced with the drop over the last few seasons. I think this one may be the season where they struggle and end up in the bottom four. In 22nd, I have gone with Northampton, the first newly promoted team. And for me, Northampton were in a bit of a sticky patch before the curtailment of the League Two season, but they absolutely bossed the playoffs, did really, really well. But it's been a tough summer for them. Few players have arrived, but over 15 players have left. And for me, I think that turnaround in the squad and the way that they were playing before the season was stopped, I think they may struggle. I don't think they'll avoid the drop. And the final relegation spot, 21st for me, is another promoted team. It's Swindon Town. And for me, Jack Payne, a very good addition for Swindon. But the loss of Owen Doyle and Keshi Anderson could be costly. And for me, that's why I've put them in the bottom four. I don't see where they'll get the goals from. Keshi Anderson is a very good player at this level. So that is my bottom four. Moving on to 20th to 17th. So these teams may avoid the drop, or they'll be kind of in and around that battle throughout the season. And the first one for me is Accrington Stanley. They've added a solid defender in Burgess from Scunthorpe, but there's been a lot of departures, and this is Accrington are one of the teams that I think will be impacted quite substantially by the pandemic and not having bums on seats. They've already lost Zanzala and Clark, and Zanzala, fantastic player in my opinion. I think the financial trouble will give them a tough season, so I've put them in 20th, but they could be one of those teams who, if Northampton, Swindon or Wimbledon have a decent run, they may end up swapping round, but I've popped them just surviving in 20th. Next up in 19th, I've gone with another promoted team, Plymouth Argyle. So another new boy to the league after promotion, and they've added Frank Nouble up top, a very good strong striker, and McCormick is back in goal. It'd be nice to see Cops have him again. It's always fun to see, isn't it? So excuse me. So Cops last season, it'd be nice if you show McCormick what he thinks of him again. But for Plymouth, no major departures other than Sarkovic to Bolton. So I think with the additions to the squad, they're good enough to avoid the drop. So I put them in 19th. In 18th, I have gone with MK Dons. There's been quite a few departures this summer with Gilby to Charlton. I'd say he's the most notable departure from Stadium MK. But not many additions though. But I think they've still got enough quality to avoid the drop this season. And that's why I've put them in 18th. And moving on to 17th, I have gone with Lincoln City. The reason for this has been a big turnaround here with 11 players in and 13 players out. Liam Bridcut, very, very good addition, adds some experience to the squad as well, but they've lost some key players from the Cowley days, such as Bolger, Bostwick and Eardley. And I think if this new look squad can gel quickly, there could be a bit of a dark horse in this league, but if they don't gel quickly enough, they could be playing catch up. I think that is probably the most likely, and that's why I've put them in 17th. For me, that's probably the most controversial prediction. Maybe. Let me know in the comments down below. And finally, moving on to 16th to 13th, we will start with Crewe Alexandra, the final promoted team. And I've gone with Crewe here because they've added Zanzala and Mandrin, who are very, very good additions at this level. But for me, I'm absolutely gutted that Paul Green has moved to Boston. It'd have been great to see him playing competitively at the Keepmoat once again. But I think Crewe have got the better setup and the stronger squad to tackle League One this season. So that's why I've put them in 16th. Moving on to 15th, I've gone with Burton Albion. They've brought some good experience in with Varney, Eardley and Bostwick, but personally I can see them struggling as I can't see where they're going to get any goals from. Looking at the squad, there's not really a standout striker or goals from midfield where I can think he's the player to watch, and I think they'll be solid at the back. I think they'll be tough to beat, but I think the lack of goals may hinder them this season, so I'll put them in 15th, a solid mid-table season for Burton. Moving on to 14th, I've gone with the first relegated team. They finished bottom of the Championship. It's Hull City, and the reason I've gone for Hull in 14th is mainly the financial trouble that they're having and the ownership troubles that they're having. I think that will massively hinder them this season. They've lost McDonald to Rotherham, a very, very good player. Personally, I enjoyed the football that Donny played under McCann, and I thank him for that experience, that good season. But all I can see for Hull is a season of struggle, unfortunately. Unless they stabilise and they give it a good push, I think it will be a tough season and a mid-table season, and then probably look at developing youth into next season. But yeah, I've put them in 14th. Tough season ahead for Hull City, in my opinion. And finally, moving on to 13th, I've gone with Shrewsbury Town. The reason for this, they've had no major additions to the squad and no damaging departures either, so I can see a solid mid-table season. No fears of relegation, but no kind of push for the playoffs either, so Shrewsbury Town for me finish in 13th. On to the top half of the table, we will start with Gillingham. Two decent additions for me in the midfield in the shape of Jacob Mellis and Kyle Dempsey, but the loss of Max Amer could be a big one at the back, but I'm expecting a solid mid-table, finishing in 12th. Could be one of the dark horses this season though. On to 11th, I've gone with Blackpool. They've had a very, very busy transfer period in both directions, players coming in and players going out, should I say. The loss of Spearing, Delfonso and Nandwile could be vital, but they have added Keshi Anderson, which I said earlier on is a great addition at this level. I think Blackpool probably a good shout for a playoff push, but again, it's if this squad gels quick enough, and if they don't, they'll be playing catch up, so I've put them in 11th. On to 10th spot, I've gone with my team, Doncaster Rovers, and as I said earlier on, we're off the radar for many. We've lost as top scorer in Sadlier, and I don't think we've replaced him. As I said, Lakilo or Richards, maybe that replacement, but only time will tell. Lakilo looked very good last year, and looking at the highlights for Richards, it looks like an absolute gem of a footballer. So I think for us, seeing how the season goes, we need some additions. If we don't get those additions, I can see us kind of just drifting through the season and finishing in a strong mid-table with an outside chance of playoffs. On to 9th, I've gone with Charlton. Another one which is a bit of a controversial prediction, because with their financial troubles, they are teetering on the brink of not existing at the minute from the reports that I've been reading. But for me, it could just be a season focusing on survival as a club, similar to Hull City. Poor ownership and financial trouble could take the headlines this season. No Lyle Taylor after he refused a contract extension at the end of last season, so it could be a long, hard season. But for me, Charlton should have the quality in the squad to survive and potentially have an outside chance of playoffs, but it's just if the off-field stuff impacts it or not. So I've gone with a 9th place finish for Charlton. On to the 8th spot, I've gone with Peterborough United. This is a season of revenge for Peterborough after feeling robbed of a playoff place last season, but they've lost Maddison, which is a big loss for me, and then they've also could be losing Ivan Toney. He looks like he may be on his way out of the door, If they don't bring any more quality in to replace that, they could miss the playoff show once again, and I think they will. I've put them in 8th. And moving on to the final team outside of the playoffs, it is Bristol Rovers. Another team with a fair amount of turnaround, but definite reasons for optimism in my opinion. They've trimmed the fat off of the squad and brought in some good players. If they keep hold of Clark Harris, I think these are a definite push for playoffs. Outside chance, like I say, definite reasons for optimism for Bristol Rovers fans this season. So that makes up 12th to 7th in the table. If you've not seen your team yet, you know that I think you're going to be in the playoffs or the top 2. So starting with the playoffs, first team is Oxford United. Matty Taylor could be the one to watch this season for me after joining from Bristol City on a permanent after performing well on loan last year. No major losses in the squad player-wise, so for me, another positive season on the way for Oxford. I think another spot in the playoffs is likely. On to 5th, I've gone with Fleetwood Town. Callum Camps adds quality to an already very decent squad. For me, Fleetwood seem to punch above the weight, but doing it consistently, so definitely a team to watch. They're very tough to beat on the day, so I can see another good season for Fleetwood. Cod's Vlogs, be nice to hear your thoughts on Fleetwood and where you're going to finish. For me, you're going to finish in 5th. Moving on to 4th, it is Ipswich Town. Not much to report transfer-wise really for Ipswich. It's the 2nd season in League One, so they know exactly what to expect. And for me, last season, Ipswich performed well below par. Expected them to go straight back up into the Championship or at least make the playoffs, and they did neither. So I think they'll be wanting to put that right this season, and playoffs has got to be minimum expectation for Ipswich Town fans, surely. I think they'll get there. I've put them in 4th. And the final team to make up the playoffs is Sunderland. Sunderland are a team desperate to get back into the Championship. Bailey Wright is a good signing this season, and they've not really lost many players of any note really. So for me, definitely a team to watch. Outside chance for the top 2 in my opinion as well, but I've put them in 3rd in my predictions. And that leaves the top 2. So if you've been following and you've been remembering what teams were mentioned, you'll know my top 2 are Wigan and Portsmouth. I've put Wigan there because they're a team that earned 61 points, I think it was, in the Championship last year, and they were relegated due to administration. So for me, if they can stabilise financially, there could be a force in League One. They've lost Kiefer Moore and Robinson, who would have hurt a lot of teams in League One, but I think Wigan have definitely got the quality to finish in the top 2 if their off-field issues are resolved, or at least their off-field issues don't impact what's happening on the field like it did last season. So I've put them in the top 2 in 2nd place, and that means for me, the champions this season will be Portsmouth. There's not been much business from Pompey. They've released Burgess, Houndstrup and Hawkins, but they've got bags of quality from front to back in the squad, all across the park. Very, very good players. And for me, Portsmouth are the team to watch this season. I think they will go up as champions. So pop them into the table, and that is my League One table prediction. As I say, with the pandemic, it has probably been the toughest prediction I've done. I'll probably be a million miles off on every single one, but we will come back at the end of the season and review this and do what we've done for the last couple of seasons, give it points, and hopefully last season I think I finished on 100 points based on where the teams finished in comparison to my prediction. So we'll have a look and see if I improve or not. But let me know in the comments down below, do you agree with where I've put the 24 teams in League One this season? Be nice to see everybody else's thoughts. Just to finish off on the channel this season, you guys can expect to see match day vlogs when we're allowed back in the stadiums. Potentially I'll do watch alongs on iFollow as well for the games that we can't go to. We will see how that goes. But definitely when we're back in the stadium, match day vlogs will return. As long as match day vlogs return, so will fans' thoughts. It will be a little bit different. Potentially I'll have to get in touch with other YouTubers, get some videos sent through and get them put onto the match day vlog itself. But when it's safe to do so, looking forward to doing the fans' thoughts once again, meeting and chatting with fellow fans and discussing our clubs. It's something that I do enjoy on a match day, so it'd be nice to get that back when it is safe to do so. And then, as we did last season, match previews will happen, but time dependent. Potentially there'll be match reviews as well. Definitely match previews. We'll see about match reviews as the season goes on. We've got a little bit of space on the channel with comment of the week finishing, so potentially that could be filled with match reviews. So that's what you can expect to see on the channel in terms of Rovers related and football related content. And that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please stick a big thumbs up on it for us, please. Comment in the section down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're still on the road to 2,000. It'd be great to get to 2,500, 3,000 subscribers by the end of the football season. We will see how it goes, but click that button and you'll help us on the way. And all that's left for me to say is thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.